Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to give a minute for everyone to get online and join. So grab a cup of coffee, grab a hot tea or a water, and get ready for a great presentation. I'm Sarah Hardwick, and I'll be your moderator today. I'll be joining Organic Transit CEO Rob Cotter and our CTO Aly Khalifa. And today we are going to be doing a live reveal of ELF 3.0. So everyone on this call is going to be getting the first look at what this team has been building. We'll walk through the design, we'll walk through the engineering, and we'll walk through what's to come next for Organic Transit and ELF. We're also going to share a little bit more about how you can be one of the first investors to receive ELF 3.0 through the offerings that are all available on our WeFunder page. So that's the best place to learn about everything that we're going to be talking about here today. So last but not least, we'll have a live Q&A at the end. So get all of your questions ready. So we'll jump right in now. We've got a lot to cover. So Rob, welcome. Aly, welcome.
Greetings. Good to see you. Hello, everyone.
Well, hello.
Hi. Hi, Aly. Okay, so Rob, why don't we start just for those of us today who might be a little bit new to organic transit and to ELF, why don't you just give us a little bit of background about what is ELF?
Sure. So the Elf is a tiny two-passenger vehicle that operates on both solar power and pedal. It has a full body that provides weather protection and safety. It's legally a bicycle and can go wherever a bicycle can go. It's can carry up to 550 pounds, but it does not require a license, a registration, or insurance in most states. It's allowed to travel up to 28 miles per hour, weighs just 160 pounds, but can carry about 550 and gets the equivalent of 1,800 miles per gallon, but of course it doesn't burn any. And it's just a whole lot of fun bringing your kid to school or taking your dog to the park or commuting or getting groceries.
That's great. Thanks, Robin. You can maybe see an elf behind me. I wish it was a real elf, and you can see a series of elves, a lineup of elves behind Rob there. So we're going to be talking about now what is new, and that's the ELF 3.0. So I just want to give a shout out to all the people who are coming. We've got Chris Hall. Hey there. Paul from Kalamazoo. It's great to see you, Paul. Chuck, Barbara, R. Wes and Sean and Chad. We want to just thank you guys so much for joining. It's an interesting mix of people we've got today because I know we have some ELF customers who are here who actually have ELFs and have been riding ELFs, and that's very exciting. But we also have some new people, some new members of our community. We have investors. We have just people who have been following Rob and his journey. So welcome, everyone. We are really excited that you can all be here today. So Rob, let's dig in. I know we have a presentation. I know everyone's probably dying to see ELF 3.0, but before we go there, maybe you talked a little bit about what ELF is, but do you want to give us, some highlights of what, some of the milestones are that ELF has achieved? Because, this, as some of us may know, you reacquired this company in 2023. You've stepped back in to lead it forward. You're really taking it through to this next chapter. So can you give the audience here just a little bit of background on what is ELF? What are some of those milestones that you've accomplished?
Sure. So we consider the Elf to be the cleanest, most efficient vehicle on the planet. We produced over 850 Elves right here in the US, creating a new product category that has an emphasis on safety, efficiency, and being economical. So first, over 10 million miles from all the ELF owners were traveled in 15 countries. And that's like traveling around the globe 43 times. Second, during that time, and the accidents that we've been able to track, there were no deaths and no serious injuries, something we designed for. Third, most ELF owners used it to replace their second car. For some, this reportedly saved them between $8,000 and $12,000 every year. Fourth, at a time when all of us are trying to consume less fossil fuels, the ELF was designed with an emphasis on the environment and sustainability. There's no paint anywhere on an ELF. This means no toxic, volatile organic compounds. Whenever possible, the materials are recycled or recyclable. And the solar recharge batteries while traveling or parked And some owners have reported they've never plugged the elf in. They just park it in the sun and use it. The elf turns the most polluting thing we do each day, which is driving our car, into the healthiest activity by pedaling. And many owners have reported losing weight or getting off of their medications with active elf use. And another important milestone, about 7% of elf owners were disabled in some way that prevented them from driving a car or being able to ride a bike.
That's amazing. And I mean, I'm looking at these elf owners. We've got Alabama elf guy Martin here. We've got, sounds like people like Chris who have been rebuilding them over the past 7 years. We've got Iowa City, Sean. Elf is the real Aptera. That's very funny, Sean. We think this is why we're here, you guys. This community that's chiming in here. This is why Rob is here. This is like this is a movement that we're here to support. So I'm just really excited to see Raymond has 2 elves. I feel like we need to have our next webinar needs to be all these elf owners talking about how you guys are using your elves, because the milestones that Rob just listed out, all these great benefits, that's just the beginning. And that's what you guys are already experiencing. So I think the next one, I mean, let's have you guys on the call here. But we do want to give you more info about ELF 3.0 because that's really exciting, and that's what Rob and Ollie have been working on. So thank you, Rob, for that. I want to introduce to everyone Ollie. Aly Khalifa is our CTO. I wanted to have him give you a little bit of the background of his story because he has a lot of really great experience, and he's really the one who's digging in to help with some of these efficiency improvements and the things that the team at ELF is really working towards. So, Ollie, welcome. Would you please tell us a little bit more about your background, your history, and what you're excited about as relates to working on ELF?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everyone. Listen, I've met Rob, I don't know, it's been more than 10 years, maybe 12 years ago that we first met, but I started my journey into the world of design back in high school. That's when I built my first recumbent vehicle. So I ended up going to NC State studying mechanical engineering and design, designed 5 more recumbents while I was there, and then went on to work for Performance Bicycle. I worked with Trek Bicycle, worked with Burley, just a variety of different companies, all in that human-powered space, looking at a lot of different things. I even worked for the state DOT planning bicycle routes. So I've kind of been on different sides of that story and that journey about human power. And I've always been really excited about like the ability to, move around a little bit more efficiently. It's just amazing to me still, even with the increase of EVs, that it takes, 4 tons to go get some eggs from the market. Like that just can't go on. And I just think you get something super convenient that's enclosed and protects you from the weather, but uses, minimal amounts of energy and keeps you healthy. I think that's what I'm really excited about working on the ELF.
Yeah, thank you. So I think what a lot of people are probably wondering, and we've definitely heard some of these questions from our community out there, is, Ollie, where does production stand right now? So can you talk us a little bit through what that path from prototype, we've got ELF 3.0, and we're going to, just for everyone, we're going to be digging in really deep to like all the details of ELF and all of the coolness of that. But from a very high level, just taking a step back, Ollie, tell us about this path to production from prototype to first delivery. What is that path look like for ELF and organic transit right now?
Well, I think Rob's taken the courageous look to sort of say, what if we just do clean slate and just kind of start over, right? Leveraging all the things that we really liked about the ELF, but there were incremental changes. It was an evolving design, just like most things will be. But at a certain point, it's time to really do a rethink, because when we have the support of a lot of investors, we have the ability then to start thinking about, okay, if we were like had a blank sheet of paper today, what could we do that would be different, but would still like retain all the character and the things that we like, but getting rid of those incremental improvements that had been doing all along. And so what we're doing now is we're definitely in the conceptual stage about rethinking about how do we like put all these components together, and technology has changed over the years as well. So incorporating solar incorporating electric motors, the technology we have for thermoforming. A lot of those things have now really changed quite a bit. And so we have the ability to sort of leverage some new technologies. So it being a clean slate, we're really kind of starting over thinking about how do we get some really good rigidity? How do we get like a really beautiful steer? How do we get, high efficiency and can we, lighten our load? Can we make it more comfortable with, dual suspension, so every wheel being suspended. So you have like a really nice, pleasurable ride, while you do all those things, but then have like a really secure cabin that can be very efficient, lightweight, and protective.
Mhm. Thank you. Wonderful. Just I guess a follow-up question to that, Ollie. So it sounds like it's a clean slate as far as the vehicle is concerned. As far as the manufacturing process is concerned, will the manufacturing process be structured differently than it was in the past, or what do you anticipate changing going forward?
Yeah, I think this time what we're looking at is to make do, like, to make use of some of the automated manufacturing techniques that we see in more high production um, um, vehicles. So there's a lot of technology out there that we can do that we can take advantage, whether we're bending sheet metal in a very, specific and efficient way, or we're using like the same bend used the same way, like to start automating processes so we can be much more efficient and have better tolerances and all our things. So we're trying to make sure that we're using best practices in terms of the mass production side. And then certainly there'll be some customization stuff as well. So I think it's going to be really marrying more of that mass production approach and leveraging some of those things with then kind of like the finishing and customizing that we had already been doing. So really it's trying to get that to the next level on the mass production side because we think we're going to have a lot bigger volume. So we think we can now start to afford the investment and some of the tooling and some of the processes to do those higher end things.
Okay. Thank you. I like to free flow it a little bit here, so I'm going to jump in with some questions that we're seeing from the chat. Actually, just one because I think it's very important, and I'm sure it's probably on everyone's minds. And that's a question from John in the chat. So it sounds like you are in this conceptual stage, which is great and it leaves you possibility. But I think all of the people on this call and certainly investors are going to be wondering about what that translates to as far as timeline for first vehicles delivered. So John's question is about that. Can you, Rob or Ollie, can you guys give us any more input on what that means as far as that timeline?
Sure. Well, roughly, we'd start delivering ELFs in about a year. There might be a few earlier on for sort of like a founder's edition and things like that, but mostly production begins in roughly a year. That could be sped up depending on the amount of investment capital that comes in, but that's what we're looking at, roughly a year.
Okay, great. And I'm sure we can detail that out in the future. And all that information you guys can see on the Organic Transit We Funder page. We'll put that in the chat. All of those details, I think there's a timeline and some more information regarding that that you can view there. Okay, well, shall we dig in? I know you've got some more slides here. Are there pieces that you want to talk about, Rob, here as we go along, related to the past ELF? I think everyone's probably pretty excited to dig into what's coming up, but anything that you want to highlight, around any accolades? You kind of mentioned some of those milestones. I don't know if we need to really dig in here.
Oh, just one that always kind of blows me away is that North Carolina recognized the ELF as one of the top 9 inventions to come out of North Carolina, alongside the Wright brothers' first flight and the uh, container, for instance, or UPC codes and things like that. So I was always blown away by that.
That's great. I wonder if we have any North Carolina folks on the call today. We may. If you're from North Carolina, give us a shout out. That's great. Rob, what's next? Let's see. Perfect. Did you want to talk a little bit about anything related to the market opportunity, Rob, or anything around the kind of the sector? ELF is obviously in a slightly different category of transportation sector. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, one thing I'd like to say is that, the ELF, like lots of vehicles, can actually cover a lot of bases, right? So sure, you have a recreationalist and you have health fitness people, and you have commuters, and you have environmentalists, but there's also like a business perspective. And we did a pilot run in New York City. Shout out to Steve Stallman for making that happen. Thank you, Steve, one of our early angel investors. And we ran it for about 3 months in the wintertime in New York City, carrying people, carrying cargo, scooting around in the rain and the slush and the snow. And it was great. And it made you realize how incredibly efficient, deliveries can be. And sometimes it used the bike path, sometimes it would be on the road, scooting right along with traffic. And, that's what an elf, basically, that's their sweet spot between a bicycle and a car. And then, so there's, a variety of markets, and, climate applications, ride sharing, rental business in national parks. There's many, many ways that this can be utilized.
Great.
Okay, so this is an important feature, actually. So without getting in too deep detail of the drivetrain, it will cover class 1 e-bikes, class 2, class 3 e-bikes, mobility devices, which are often thought of as like vehicles for disabled folks, and then the neighborhood electric vehicle, which is sort of an advanced golf cart with turn signals and such. So the new ELF 3.0 will be able to cover all these categories with one drivetrain, and that will be programmable. It'll apply to how people's in their geography, what works for them in their state, what the needs are that they need, and it lowers our cost. It simplifies the supply chain, and we'll be able to program it and also provide over-the-air updates to the motor and controller.
And Rob, I might just jump in there. The reason that's relevant is because we're seeing right now a lot of changes state by state in the local regulations. So what can go on a greenway, what can go in a bike lane, all of those things are changing right now. So really, we have to be looking state by state or have that kind of granularity to make sure that all our customers are getting full advantage of what we're making.
Ollie, would you say that these changing regulations are opening up new opportunities for vehicles like ELF?
In some cases, they're opening up. In some cases, they're closing down. But I think it's because in many cases, there's not been enough EV, like for instance, the e-bikes have really changed things. And some people are seeing them as a threat. Other people are seeing them as an opportunity. And so depending on different municipalities, we're seeing a lot of change right here. So we just need to be cognizant and be aware that it's a changing legal environment and making sure that then when we're building this from the ground up, we know that we can adjust to those different standards.
Great. I just wanted to point out that we have, I think it's almost 8 people that we have talking about who are including everyone. We've got New Jersey, we have Durham, we have North Carolina. We have about 8 people from North Carolina all across the state. And the Durham, according to legend, Chuck says the Durham Police Department even had a couple of elves. So I would really love a photo of that for social media, Chuck, if you have one. That's really great. And we do have Steve on the call today, Rob. So Steve Weinstein, who you mentioned, who opened up opportunities. So what an amazing group. It seems like we have a lot of fans, and specifically from that area, that area is great. So thank you all for joining. Okay, let's keep moving because we've got a lot to cover.
So this was basically, many people are familiar with, or at least ELF owners. This was the basically structure of the original ELF, which was all aircraft aluminum. Nothing was painted. There was no paint, and used the spined backbone system. And the shell, which we created the molds in-house and vacuum formed. And so that was, our intention, our goal, to make it as light as possible. We did very little suspension or thoughts of suspension back then because we wanted to simplify things. Bicycle, mostly for most of the time bicycle existed, they had no suspension. Once they had early suspension, it was a cause for a lot of service issues. And so we wanted to kind of just keep it as simple as possible. And you'll notice up on the right-hand side, a little Fibonacci symbol there, which is sort of this natural philosophy about shapes and mathematical reasoning in nature and things. And we didn't know about it, but after we built the ELF, we were like, look at that. It kind of applies to this natural mathematical system. So that's what this slide is about, and that's what the ELF is about.
Okay, the moment we're all waiting for. Tell us about ELF 3.0, Rob.
So, one of the things we wanted to do, as Ali mentioned a little bit, is stiffen things up. We wanted to have this updated and customizable drivetrain. We wanted a regen braking system. We wanted a reverse gear because it has a full floor. So that's kind of a necessity before you could just use your feet to get backwards. We have essentially doubled the solar uh, uh, capability, and in some cases it'll go from, so we've gone from 100 watts to 200 watts, and there'll be an optional approximately 400-watt package. And we did as described here, a thorough rethink of the frame and chassis, which it's an extremely strong, rugged structure. And then we've incorporated suspension throughout, and some of the suspension deals with our current patents and is really super neat and proprietary. And the other part we're doing is, we have the really, really exceptional batteries that are going to, they're about double the capacity of the original ELF batteries, but also they can be used as an emergency backup for your home. And if you have a couple of them, you can swap them out. And so you always have a battery ready to go. But if the house runs out of energy, if the grid goes down, then the ELF starts supporting the house. And so that's one of our cool features that are going on.
That's great. Let's see. I have a couple questions. I'm just going to throw them out here because these are like top of mind for your community, Rob. So, one question from Scott is, what's until this 3.0 arrives, will ELF 2.0 still have the ability to get maintenance? Will they be upgraded to ELF 3.0? For example, battery technology, power, things that weren't available in the past. What is that transition going to be like for our current owners?
So that's a great point. So one of the things we've started an ElfWorks operation in Eflin, North Carolina, or as like we like to call it, Elfland. And so that's going to be a place for service and maintenance. We'll be able to distribute most of the parts that Elfs require to existing owners, and they'll be doing servicing and refurbishing, and as well as restoration. And I think in terms of like the new battery, there's a likelihood that we'll be incorporating the new battery for people to use in their older ELFs. It'll take some retrofitting, but yes, one of the things we're very proud of, we never had a battery fire. And that's mostly because we assembled the batteries in-house. And we just didn't like what the offerings were at the time. And so we want to make sure that batteries continue to be super safe feature on new ELFs and old ELFs.
Are you going to be going into the battery size and specs a little bit later, Rob?
So basically, the battery is about twice the size of the old ELF. It's about 40 watt hours. The old ones were 16. And so it'll easily double the range, or probably better, especially with the additional solar. And it'll have, in some cases, they'll have onboard charging that you can charge it with. There'll be a charger set up to it, and some will have inverters, so you can easily hook it up to your power tools or to run your refrigerator during a power outage.
Okay, good. Hope that answers Chris's question there. And then it also looks like Chris Hall is a major ELF repair technician in Boston. So if anyone's needing ELF repairs, Chris is in the chat here, and you can ask Chris for any help or support as needed. So it sounds like there'll be multiple resources for repairs and upgrades as you get going. I'm just going to go through a couple questions because it's a little more interesting, I think, for everyone to hear a few questions as we're going along. Is that okay with you, Rob? I want to make sure you have a chance to get through everything.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So I guess let's see. Another question from Chris. Let's see. Is it always going to be that two-tone look? The bottom photo shows the door panel being blue, the aerial is white. Are we still working on that aspect? Or Ollie, maybe that's a question for you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we're just having fun with color right now. The idea is that these panels will be molded in one color, and that there'll be some wraps being able to be attached. Because again, we want to get away from all paint. So I think there'll be a lot of creative options coming up. But right now, yeah, the color blocking is is something we're doing just to sort of play with that a little bit. A lot of our attention right now is on the internals, the chassis, the suspension, and all of that.
Okay. And as far as going back to the battery, like weight, voltage, et cetera, are those all specs you'll be releasing later? Do you have anything else you want to share with the group at this time on batteries, voltage or weight?
So ELFs have always been 48 volt, and the new standard ELFs will also be 48 volt, but there's a possibility that the NEV category and other vehicles or other categories in that, there's a possibility those will be 72 volts.
Okay,
But that's a
great.
little bit down the road.
Okay. Well, we still have some great questions. Jim, I see you have a question in the Q&A there. I have not forgotten about you. We'll get to that and a few other questions. I see Darren about the drivetrain, et cetera. So thank you guys. You're a great audience. So please keep putting these questions in. We're going to answer as many as we possibly can during this time. If we don't get to your question, we'll try to get your info in the chat, and we'll try to get that answer to you. So Rob, let's move on a little bit here, and then I'll continue to throw out some of these technical specs. Maybe they'll be answered along the way.
So Ali, why don't you take this one here?
Yeah, so one of the things is just looking at basic performance. So some of the studies that we've been doing was looking at, okay, what is like our best cornering speed? So we wanted to improve that. So we've been looking at, just some basic dynamics of looking at our cornering speed. So we've now reduced our center of mass about 2 inches. We've been able to drop it down 2 inches, which gives us like another couple miles an hour to be able to take a turn at the same radius and everything else being equal. So we think we're going to feel a lot safer, a lot more stable. And it's not like a complaint we had, but we just wanted to increase the performance more than we had, just to keep pushing it forward.
Great.
Okay, so here's just some basic concepts on the frame. And so one of the things that Rob and I have been talking about, for instance, is like the efficiencies of fuselage, like an airplane fuselage, or in another way, like a kayak, right? Where you have an exoskeleton type approach. Because as soon as you put a body panel onto things, you kind of have to get material out to the edges. So then why not just put all your structure at the edges and then just allow for like a really roomy cabin? So one of the things we've been doing is looking at that fuselage frame, building in rigidity. We're not showing a lot of details on suspension, all that stuff. We have intellectual property to protect here. But this is just some conceptual stuff for everyone to be able to see without invalidating a patent for us. But the basic idea is to be able to integrate doors straight into the frame and then form a variety of torque circles, so that basically, tying top edges and bottom edges together, making those rigid, then using a panel that like shear panels that can then really shore up that system. So I think it's going to be a lot lighter and more rigid in this kind of a configuration. Again, we're following the examples of what we're seeing out there in really like, performance like type aircraft and other things. We are also realizing that what we can do is completely simplify the seat assembly and let the seat actually be a reinforcement for the structure, as opposed to sort of being like a cantilever force that is out there. So that gives us some really good benefits. Building in actually door hinges that would be removable was another goal for us. So again, it's like not we're adding on more hardware or adding more things, but we're starting off with all of those things built in. And if anything, we can actually pull them out. One other significant thing is looking at how these paneling can happen instead of side to side, really more from bottom to top. So that gives us a lot of ability to, again, have shear panels for rigidity and kind of like shearing up, like you can see in that bottom right corner. We can really stabilize things. It also makes it a lot simpler to do windshield, solar panels, those kinds of things, and having a lot of rigidity built in without adding more metal, adding more weight, adding more things like that. So this is now what we're looking at as a basic approach. One of the things mentioned here in the bottom one is trying to get into a modular rear system. So this kind of a fuselage approach will also lend itself to going to a quad or to other things that we've been looking at for future expansion. So we're trying to build in a platform for us to be able to build successive products on this roadmap that we've established.
Okay. We have so many good questions. I'm loving this. This is going to be great. Okay, so a couple questions around. I have a question from Paul around track width. What track width did you decide on? And then a follow-up question from Stephen around the OG Elf was a few inches too wide for most bike lanes. Has that width been reduced? So maybe, Ollie, you can speak to those questions.
Yeah, we've kept the actual track width about the same. So it's about 42 inches on from side to side. We've pulled in the fenders, so it's not as quite as wide on the body side. So trying to make like a more narrow profile on the body itself. But we didn't really want to sacrifice like turning ability and turning speed and all that stuff is very much tied to your track width. And we looked at how we could, really reduce that. First, our goal is to get even to 36 inches if we could, but the dynamics really aren't there. So we want to have a nice, stable base for being able to take turns. But we're continually working inch by inch on that to see what we can do. But on the body, we're able to pull that in a little bit more than before.
Okay, great. Let's see. These are not in any order, but I saw a question here about from Darren about the drivetrain. Is there a set group of initial customizable drivetrain options that you have in mind? How will that process work?
I'm sorry, drivetrain options?
Drivetrain. Yeah. What are the initial customizable drivetrain options currently in
Right,
mind?
right. So those are customizable from our side for the customer's needs. So if they only
Okay.
want to have a class one vehicle because that's where the state only allows things like that, we will program the drivetrain to be applicable for that. And so on for class two, for class three, for mobility devices. So if someone has a certain disability and they have a little tag on their rearview mirror, it's quite likely that we can tailor a vehicle that meets their needs and their state's needs just by programming it.
Okay, that's great. Perfect, thank you. And as Sean pointed out here, the Zoom Q&A section is open, so that's a great place to put your questions in addition to the chat, because we are getting a ton in the chat, but feel free to use that Q&A as well. What about Rob and Ollie anti-theft features or safety features?
So we're going to have an electronic basic demobilizer that when you walk away from the elf, when you've turned it off, it doesn't roll. So a few hefty people could theoretically pick it up and walk away with it, I suppose, but that's what would have to take place. So the elf won't move when it's not engaged. The other part, it'll have a built-in tracking system. So if someone does take it, you'll be able to know where it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's great. Okay, we've got so many good questions. I want to make sure you get through the key parts of your elf reveal here. So why don't I let you go through a few slides and then I'm going to make sure and leave let's just say, Rob, if you can try to get through whatever you can get through in the next 5-10 minutes, and then we can leave the rest of the time for questions because there's a ton of them and they're really good ones. But related to this, let me just ask one more from Spring Davis. There appears to be a horizontal support above the rear of the seat. Won't that hit your butt?
Yes, I think you're looking at the way that the seat is rendered right there. Is that what that is about? It
Maybe,
could be. Yeah,
yeah.
so
So, okay.
there's a mechanism being designed for that right now, which we're not really
Okay.
revealing at this point. So it's just kind
Ooh,
of cartooned in there. So yeah,
okay.
good. I mean, it's a good catch because it's not going to actually be that way. But
Okay.
again, we wanted to share images and share our excitement with everyone, but we don't want to invalidate patents, and we think we have an interesting mechanism there for everyone to look
Okay.
at.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's keep going. Let's see how much you guys can get through in the next 5-10, and then we'll dive into more of these questions.
Oh, and I did see there was a question about seat adjustment back and forth, and that was
Oh,
one of the main elements of it. Is so basically now that the seat adjustment now it's clasping on the edge of the frame, it's much easier to get to. You're not kind of reaching underneath the seat for adjustments. So we think it'll be much more user
okay.
friendly front to back.
That's great. That's great. And I guess back just because you had that slide up last, will full enclosure be an option ever, or maybe an add-on, a modular
Oh,
add-on?
yes.
So we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, this really lends itself to a full enclosure. So elf owners know it's nice to have it open when you're pedaling away and sweating and stuff. The cool breezes really makes it phenomenal. And then the people in, say, Minnesota and Canada, they really like to kind of button it down And so this really lends itself to be completely enclosed, if that's what they want.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay, well, let's keep rolling here, Rob.
Okay, so these are just future concepts. They share the ELF supply chain. They share our kind of design philosophy. The city trike on the right-hand side is actually a stand-up little trike, but also it has a folding seat that can flip up. So it's kind of like those little scooters, except that it can carry a couple of bags of groceries, gives you some wind and rain protection, incredible stability. The center of gravity is very, very low, and it's very safe for a scooter type vehicle. And then the other one is the Photon, which is kind of like an NEV plus, and it's currently would be allowed in 26 states. That would be like the 72 volt version, and it's really very much a solar hot rod.
Solar hot rod. Awesome. Okay, great.
So this describes the elf works that we talked about in Elfland, North Carolina, and we have a couple of really talented guys servicing and consulting and advising, and and using factory parts, right? Using the stuff that was made for elves or upgraded from those features as well.
Great.
Hey, Chuck, I know you're out there somewhere.
I think Chuck, yeah, and Chris maybe. Let's see. I think Chris chimed in earlier.
Hey,
Yep.
Chris.
Yeah, I think we have both on the call here. Great. Okay. Perfect. Do you want to continue, Rob?
Yeah, so as most of you are probably aware, we are raising funds on WeFunder. And, crowdfunding is such a perfect application for the ELF because so many people were so enthusiastic about it. And I'd pull into a supermarket somewhere and the cashier would be like, wow, how can I get involved with that? And of course, as we know historically, the general public, if you're not an accredited investor, can't really participate in any kind of real startup activity. They have to wait until it's all thoroughly matured. But we really look at it as a community, that the people that want to invest, that also want ELFs, you know, and want the kind of world that they would like to see happen, elf owners, and get healthy and have a lot of fun. And this is the community that crowdfunding and WeFunder promotes. And we feel like that's our success. That's sort of motivation from the community.
That's great. Thanks. And I just put the link to the crowdfunding campaign, all of the details about that campaign and where you can actually make an investment. It's all on WeFunder. So that's the best place to go to read about all of those, all that information, all the disclosures, everything that you need to know about that opportunity and offering is there on WeFunder. Okay. Are there more slides here about ELF 3.0, Rob? Or we got a gazillion questions. We can certainly transition to the Q&A time.
I believe that's I believe that's the last slide. But I would like to say a couple of times, and I really can't keep track of it. All the new 3.0s will be 2-passenger or 1 adult and perhaps 2 small children, and they'll have seat belts and child seat fasteners, and unless it's spec'd out for just carrying cargo, which would be a real easy transition to not have the rear seat, or even leave the rear seat and set it up for cargo anyway. But they'll all be 2-passenger at least.
Perfect. Great. Anything else that you want to talk about?
One thing that probably didn't pop out
Questions?
on the doors was that we looked at doing like a suicide door type system. So it kind of opens from the front corner back, because it seems like it just gives a whole lot more easy ingress for the rear passenger, and as well as the front passenger being able to easily close that door. So we found that really just kind of opened up the cabin quite a bit.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Awesome. Well, we're going to get into some of these questions here, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more, but this is really an amazing group, very engaged. So I'm thankful for everyone's comments and feedback. And this is really helpful for Rob and for Ollie to hear your perspective, your questions, your concerns, and all of this will be integrated into the plans, exciting plans moving forward. So, question from Jim. Thank you for being so patient around what are the plans for incorporating robotics into your production line? Obviously, there's a lot happening in that space. When do you see that happening? What is your view on that, Rob or Ollie?
Why don't you take it, Ali?
Yeah, listen, I think we're going to have a hybrid approach here. So there's definitely going to be some customization for, again, like for different municipalities where this is going and for different options. And I think I'm just watching the chat, I already see a lot of requests for different options. So we just have to balance, leveraging the best we can on the mass production side, which is going to be primarily the way we make that chassis. And that's where it lends itself to some of those robotic type approaches. And then on the other hand, there's definitely going to be some handwork to do some setups and definitely some custom programming. We can control a lot on that motor output and some of those things to be in compliance with programming. So some of that will be part of the process as well.
Okay. One clarifying question for you, Rob, from George. So didn't the ELFs end at version 1.9? We're talking about moving to 3.0. Did we jump over a few versions or how did that happen?
So there was kind of a 2.0, which is a limited edition. It was called the Urban Kayak. And the Urban Kayak was sort of a tactical elf that incorporated wipers and standard with the heated cooled seat and all those sorts of cool features. And so we kind of classify that as a working 2.0 model.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Question from Esther regarding and again, there are a lot of features. So let's just, with caveat, all of this is in the works. I don't think there's, really a formal decision on some of these things. So it's good that you guys are asking all of this information because I think it'll inspire Ollie to possibly, prioritize some things over others. But one from Esther is around the programmable drivetrain. Is there any possibility to have an option without a throttle to adhere more to the laws in Europe, which are more hostile to throttle and prefer other options there, the PED option?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, it's totally programmable. So
Right.
it has so many features that I really couldn't get into just on this one moment here. But I understand the constraints for Europe. We delivered ELFs to Germany and France and Spain and other places. We know that, and we also know about the TÜV, the certification process in Germany, which is pretty stringent, and we have nothing but the intention of meeting the proper guidelines.
Okay. Thank you. This is a great question from Paul. He just scanned the WeFunder page. He didn't really see a money-wise goal. Can you share what funds are needed to actually reach production in 12 months?
So our intention, like the way crowdfunding regulation works, there's a ceiling at about $1.2 million, and then you reapply and you can go up to about $5 million. I will say with the 1.2, about 50% will be going into prototyping. And the closer we get into prototyping, the closer we are into a manufacturable item. And then there's everything else that is required, salaries and overhead and marketing and things like that.
Okay, great. Thank you. More of a technical question. I've seen a couple of these questions actually regarding this technology. So maybe this is a good partnership opportunity for you, Rob and Ollie, if you're not thinking about it already. But a couple of people, including Alan, have suggested adding technology like Spoke's VRU2X technology to enhance awareness and visibility. Is that something that you are thinking about or have in the pipeline, Ollie or Rob?
Yeah, it's something definitely tracking on. It's right now, it's an additional expense. There's definitely some additional things to it. So it seems like something that maybe is not on the like the most imminent like pipeline. It might have to be in a phased approach, but to add that safety is fantastic. It's we're also waiting to sort of see on the motor vehicle side how many cars are beginning to like recognize that technology too. So there'd be some kind of a convergence there, but I think it's a great add-on.
Great. Great suggestion. If anyone knows anyone there, I'm sure they'd appreciate some good connections. Thank you. Okay, this is kind of a tough question, Rob. You know, I like to ask tough questions. I warned you that I'm not going to shy away from some of the tough ones here. So I think it's a really good one, though, and I think it's worth clarifying. So thank you, James, for your question. It's around this idea of crossing the chasm and the mistake that Detroit made 40 years ago, trying to be all things to all people. And, you know, we're hoping to be in production by the end of 12 months. So how, you know, that he doesn't want to see that happen to Yelp. Pick your market, start there and expand. What are your thoughts on Elf's market and how you will avoid trying to be all things to all people?
Well, one thing is we know, the elf is not for everybody, so we can kind of clarify that right off the bat. The other part is that, previously we did a direct to consumer sales model where, you saw the amount of media attention we got. Our philosophy was like raise the flag up and see who comes on board. And, everyone came to us. We did zero advertising. And, but the truth is we could never build as many as we could sell. So there's a couple of important things to be able to increase productivity, to have them ready to go. So when somebody calls up, say, I want to get an elf, you don't have to say, yeah, you get it in 3 months. You can say, you'll get it in 4 days. What color do you want? The other part is a crucial matter is financing for the consumer. Um, uh, Without like mentioning any particular numbers, because who knows what that could be in the future regarding interest rates, but not everybody has a sizable chunk of cash to put down on a elf type vehicle, and that's how we based it before. And now, they just have to come up with the down payments. That's our intention. But our market, I think our youngest owner was about 14 and our oldest was 94. So, we try not to focus so much. It's more like who likes avocados? That's, you don't really break it down too much. You're willing to sell avocados to anybody who wants them. Um, and then, but there is markets. So like for tourism and parks, for the disabled on their particular disability they may have, for the cold climates, they get more wrapped up in the tighter, warmer one. People in the South may want the expanded solar option. Another interesting aspect is people that have solar on their homes. Many of them were first-time starters, and this is an opportunity for them to be like the first on their block with a new little solar vehicle.
Great. Okay, we're gonna do a speed round. We have 10 minutes. Honestly, I don't think we're gonna have time to get through every single one, but we can maybe spend, I don't know if Rob and Ollie, you have another 5 minutes or so, but let's try to get through as many as we can for whoever is willing to stay on, because I do think these are great. If not, I promise we will get to you. But there's really good questions on here. So just to clarify, Rob, if you raise $1 million, you may be able to start production. Is your hope, your goal.
No, we'd be production ready.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Let's see here. So will there be a twofer version of the 3.0? Two
All
FR.
all 3.0s will be twofers.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay. Any other thoughts on your modern day inspirations? So Sean mentions he heard you taking ideas from light aircraft. Brilliant. Sean is a fan of right to repair. I'm also. And number two, modularity, like in the upcoming Slate truck electric vehicle. Anything else that's inspiring you as you're thinking about the development of this vehicle?
Well, I think it's funny because Rob and I have talked a lot about Slate, and I'm actually in line for my own Slate at some point. We just think that's a great approach, both on the manufacturing, the marketing, the ability for people to upgrade. And I've seen that in the comments quite a bit, including like when you look at dashboards and things like that. We think like the approach Slate has taken makes a lot of sense. So that's really guiding a lot of us, and it's great to see this community already kind of resonates with that.
Definitely. Yeah, that idea of modularity, I think I've seen several times in different comments about how that's exciting, the platform approach, which is also really scalable, which is probably
Mhm.
why people are excited about it.
Yeah.
We've got a couple questions around sales and service locations. James is specifically looking to co-sponsor a sales or service location in Silicon Valley. I have a feeling there's probably others in different markets. Rob, what's the best way to start these conversations? Should they contact you directly? Maybe do you want to throw your email in the chat, or how can we, because I think these are things that you're building out now. Is there a way for people to contact you to discuss those types of things?
Right. So on the Organic Transit website, there's a form for parts and service and maintenance. If they went
Okay.
there and spelled out their intentions, that would be
Okay.
great. There's some people are aware of it, the Light Electric Vehicle Association tech training. So a lot of our technicians and people that are capable of and are comfortable working on ELFs, and they do this through community colleges and things. Um, the Leave Tech training incorporates ELF service and maintenance, which that would be a simple priority for everyone who works on ELFs to be certified through that program.
Okay. That's great. Okay, so John, go ahead and fill out that form, and also I'll make a note to reach out to you so that we can get that going. Okay, from our West Ridgeway, question around Burley cargo trailer compatible. He's seen video of someone using one on a Missouri trail, on a Katy trail.
So there's a lot of ELFs pulling a lot of trailers, and I'm be hesitant to say how heavy they are, but they are heavy. And they've done it for many thousands of miles. So they actually happen to be really capable for pulling all sorts of, different types of trailers. And we may be coming out with our own trailer, and I'll just leave that at this moment.
Ooh, I didn't even know that. Okay, great. How about future variants designed for package or food delivery?
Absolutely. So, a kind of a working title, we call the standard elves, we categorize them as treble, and the kind of the faster, bigger elves in the NEV category as the altos, and the cargo type of in a category is we call them the base, and the base type of elf cargo carrying, they have so much capability for delivering. It's phenomenal. And we talked with the post office in our prior iteration, and UPS and FedEx and Amazon and all that stuff. And some of them are doing a pretty good job using pod type vehicles to address the delivery market, but it's still so ripe and so open. And we would love to be working on that aspect.
Great. Okay, Chris has a comment about child seat fasteners. Are those for car seats or bike seats? What do we got going on?
Well, I think you could do it for either.
Ah, okay. Well, there you have it, Chris. Perfect. Ah, question from, I think it might be my friend Chad Monroe. Thank you for joining. Will the 2.0 resume being built while the 3.0 is in development?
So the 2.0 is not being built, but I will say this, that we have a lot of 2.0 hardware that, it comes across all the time. I mean, I say hardware, full bodies, full frames, seats, drivetrains, everything we need. But we don't want to distract from the mission of the 3.0. But if we do, if we had enough interest of people saying, oh, I really like to get the 2.0, it's so acoustic, it's so, original and light, there's a possibility that we would do a very limited run of 2.0s.
That's great. I'm going to answer a question from Mikey because it's kind of my department. Thank you, Mikey. Your question is, how will organic transit maintain excitement and exposure during the time frame to production? And we're working closely, and I'm working closely with Rob on a lot of marketing strategies. And honestly, it starts right here. And so having people here on this call, like you, Mikey, like everyone who's chatting, who's getting excited, who's rallying up and rising up, we're going to start by engaging and re-engaging our community that's been there from the very beginning. And we'll probably maybe be launching some sort of an ambassador program to get you guys on board. I would love to have, I mentioned one of the next webinar sessions, maybe everyone can show their elves. I've got people challenging, hey, Dawn, when are you going to show your elf? And so maybe we have a call next where people can really show what's out there. But we'll be integrating a lot of marketing and PR strategies, but it's really going to start with showing off what's kind of what we have right now and engaging our community. And we would love the help from all of you out there to spread the word, talk about our campaign, share, because that's really going to help this thing get going. But outside of that, we're going to be looking at paid media. We're going to be looking at all sorts of different tactics to make sure that we're keeping top of mind and keep excitement high between now and when we're actually in production. So thank you, Mikey. Great. We got a few more minutes and we got a lot more questions, so we're going to keep going. A lot of questions relating the plan for support for older elves. So I'm going to make us an action item, Rob and Ollie. We need to get a lot more information out to everyone because there's a lot of questions, and I think we need to really think through and maybe share with everyone a more robust plan with a lot more details than you might be able to share today. So taking that as a note from Chris and other people who are putting in these questions, we'll definitely work with you closely on that. Question regarding how about rear view mirrors? They look more like automotive grade than bike mirrors. Will they fold in? Are they adjusted? Ollie, maybe that's a question you can answer.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we're playing a little bit with the mirrors, but we want it to be a little bit more durable and more streamlined than what we had before. So try to integrate with the body, kind of like you see most modern automobiles. We don't currently have them folding in, but if that's because we can maintain that same width as the fenders, so it doesn't seem like it's a that's a particular need right now.
Okay, great. Let's see here. Will the motor be installed in the rear wheel? Where and what transmission options will be available?
So we've never been a fan of putting the motor in the wheel. I think it works for a lot of e-bikes and that's fine. But you're putting a sensitive electronic device in the middle of all this stimulation and bumps and things, and it increases the unsprung weight. And it also, the mass is very slow to spool up. So one of the reasons elves are quick to accelerate is because we actually took hub motors, which became a very high quality item, and we moved them into the frame, and we moved them pretty far forward so that we changed the center of gravity, but we also had a very light wheel to spin up. So quick answer, yeah, no motors in the wheels.
Okay, great. Okay, one request, Jennifer, since you're running the slideshow here, to go back to the ElfWorks slide for Oliver is wanting to see that ElfWorks slide while you're taking questions. And we can share this out with you guys. We're going to share the recording. It's really great to see that there's so much happening. I saw this, the comment, I think it was from Sean, saying, I feel like the elf people are my people, but I also feel disconnected. Are there plans for an official elf community forum like on Discord? And I know that's something you're definitely thinking about, Rob, and that goes kind of into the marketing realm as well. But I do think that's something that will be, as we get going here, I think that would be really critical for us to help to nurture our relationships with all of you out there who are already passionate elf fans, super excited. So is that fair to say that's to come, hopefully, Rob?
Absolutely. We have to have easier, simpler ways for people to tie together and communicate. And so we can quickly get the information out to them as well. So, yeah, we're a big fan of that. I'm not so fluent on Discord personally, but, we have to be there for sure.
Yeah, and Chris just reminded everyone there is a Facebook, so please come and join. And he put the link in the chat, so go ahead and join there. So, how are you feeling, Robin, Ollie? We still have a couple questions we could keep running through. Do you want to take a handful more before we end here?
Sure, but one thing I want
Okay,
to say as we're looking at
great.
the ElfWorks slide
Yeah.
is that that particular facility we're in is 100% solar and off the grid. And you think about that, conducting a business and you're not even hooked up to the power company, that's pretty wild. But it really goes along with our whole environmental desire to just make everything leaner, cleaner, and make more sense.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. What about Digital Dash?
I mean, there's so many options for that these days, right? I mean, there's not an electric bike or a little vehicle that doesn't have some kind of digital dash. And the Elf did too. We would use the psychoanalyst, which was fine at the time, but things have come a long way since then. And we haven't, focused on that at all at the moment, but there's a lot of opportunities and options. And I think some people, some people want something as simple as possible, and all they want to do is hook up their cell phone, right? That's all they want to see and do, and
Okay.
that's an option as well. But
Okay.
it's new for us.
Okay, great. Any tax advantage on development, or will ELF be able to utilize any tax savings programs?
So R&D wise, I believe for the investors, I think, and I'm not the person to really reveal this, but I believe there are certain R&D credits for investments. Regarding states, different states will have and will have or have had benefits for ELF ownership, but that's something they have to figure out for themselves, at least at this time. And I think a lot of things like that are in flux. But that's a great question. My personal feeling is vehicles like ELFs, pod vehicles, electric bikes, all these things ought to be encouraged, right? So if you can pull a car off the road, even for a certain amount of time, it's extremely valuable. And so I think currently it's a state by state.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to do like two more questions. One, because we've had a couple around the chain. It's difficult to clean the chain. Are there thoughts on enclosing the chain? Any chain thoughts?
So it will be, let's just say it's just not going to be an issue anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, great. Well, answer that one there. Okay, great. Let's see. Any chance you'll be at CycleCon in Dayton this year?
I would love to.
Okay.
Usually there's a scheduling thing, but yeah, we would love to be there.
Okay. Okay. Well, we still have a few more questions. I appreciate everyone's suggestions in the chat here about where we should be and Discord and all that. And so I think we'll regroup with you all. I hope that everyone who is so enthusiastic on this chat is going to be as enthusiastic for, helping to support this campaign and working with us. I would certainly love to have the help and support of all of you out there because your passion is clear and it's not going to happen without you. And so thank you so much for everyone here. I'm going to make sure, because there are some questions we didn't get a chance to answer, you'll all be hearing from our team and Rob or Ollie regarding these questions. And then we're also going to look for them in future content. So when you see WeFunder updates and emails, we'll try to answer a lot of these themes and questions, but also feel free to email myself. I'll put my email in here. Or Rob, is there an email that you feel comfortable with people reaching out to you directly? What would that be?
So I'm rob@organictransit.com.
Okay, that's perfect. And I'll put my email here for any marketing suggestions or questions or anything. I can always route things to the right people. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any burning questions. And it was so amazing to see all of you ELF owners out there. Thank you for being a part of this community, being a part of this campaign. Again, going to WeFunder would be a great next step to read about what the plans are and let us know if you have any questions. And we're off and running. So Rob, or Ollie, anything last that you want to share before we close out the webinar today?
I mean, for me, I would say just thanks everyone for all the questions because it really helps inform like the way to communicate on the next one. So hopefully we'll be able to answer everyone's questions directly on there, but it's also giving a nice sense of kind of where everyone's at and also the enthusiasm for everyone. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you all for showing up. You guys have made the ELF happen. Originally, it was all through your input that kept on modifying and increasing the practicality of the ELF. And now we're at a whole nother stage. And we'd like to, access this community and have us all rally together and make this happen. And it's going to be because of you folks that make that happen, not any one individual anywhere. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
And thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, everyone. There is more to come. Stay tuned for more webinars, hopefully featuring all of you, and more information as we progress on this journey towards ELF 3.0. We will be communicating with you regularly, so stay tuned. Another webinar to come. Thank you so much for all of you joining us, and we will be back in touch soon. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you.